Hello and welcome to the Power of Integrity podcast. I'm Ralph Adamo, your host. We're here today with Oksana Lukash of People, Culture, You. Oksana has a consulting firm. She has a wonderful pedigree and professional background, and I want to turn it over to Oksana to let her tell you a little about her path and journey, where she is today, and what she's been doing over the years that brought her to where she is today. Oksana, welcome, and thank you for joining us.
Yeah, no, thank you, Ralph. I'm happy to be here. Um, as you stated, my name is Oksana. I have my own HR consulting firm called People Culture U that can help small to mid-sized companies with any to all HR needs, anywhere from being your entire fractional HR business partner or team to being an extra set of hands during a busy time of the year with a certain project. To give you a bit of an overview of my background, I've been in HR my entire career, which now is about 24 plus years. Have had an opportunity to work at a variety of different companies, different sizes, different industries, but definitely found my passion in the life sciences and biotech space, primarily with startup, small to mid-sized companies. That's where I feel the mission is unbeatable, where you're helping patients, specifically, usually during the most challenging, scariest time of their lives. And then with those types of companies, I feel that that's where my team and I are able to make the most impact for our internal team members, which in turn can make the biggest impact for the patient.
Wonderful. Yes. And so, as we turn our attention to the topic of integrity, would you share what integrity means to you?
I'm sure. I think it's doing the right thing when people are looking or not looking. It's being able to look yourself in the mirror and be comfortable with the reflection that's looking back at you and being okay with what you say and what you do in all instances, right? To be okay to be on social media, to be on the front cover of any news publishing and just own your decisions.
Wonderful, wonderful, absolutely succinct and to the point. Can Would you share with our audience a little bit of how prioritizing integrity in your life, professionally and personally, has benefited you and the firms you have been with over the years?
That's a great question. Again, I think being in the space of, I lean more towards calling it people and culture versus HR. And for me, I think there's quite a few distinctions there. It's doing, again, the right thing. It's doing the right thing by both the employees as well as the company. And I feel that there's still, the jury is out, and it depends on who you talk to, that a lot of folks feel that my profession tends to only be there for the company. I find myself really being in that middle where you need to do what's right by both parties because there is no company without the talent. Um, I've, through my career, have been in a few situations where integrity has definitely been tested. But at the end of going back to what I said originally, I want to feel comfortable with looking at myself in the mirror and knowing that I did the right thing, regardless of how difficult it might be, and regardless of any potential, right, personal downfall or outcome that doing the right thing might cause. So have been in a number of those situations. Again, figured out a way to do the right difficult thing, to be able to help again the individuals that needed somebody to be in their corner when situations were tough. And again, feel good about it, regardless even of what potentially might have happened again to me or my team as a result.
Yes, yes. And when you think about it, because you've been in leadership roles or at least leading employees, how does integrity play a role in fellowship that occurs or the lack of fellowship when you're talking about leading employees?
Yeah. I think a lot of folks either forget or get distracted by the fact that when you do get into the leadership, the senior executive type of a position, that significantly more eyes are on you. I think it can be a very lonely place, because you do have access to so much information, to things that are going on within the organization that might not be public knowledge, that might not be, things that actually would even come to fruition. So you always have to remember to have integrity, to build authentic leaders or authentic relationships across the organization and walk the talk. So many folks are watching what is being said, what's not being said, what's being rewarded, what also is being punished, by the executives and by the leadership team. So we have to be very cognizant of that and make sure that, again, we're setting the right example and are asking the organization to do the things that we are willing to do ourselves as well.
Yes, absolutely. And when you think about it, so that's inward facing with the organization, the constituents, the clients, the customers of the firm. I know that this is important, but how do you see integrity playing a role with client loyalty and productivity?
To me, I think same, right? I've actually been part of an organization where I think we've done a phenomenal job of this. The company was called Clariant. It was a molecular diagnostic laboratory right here in Orange County. And the interesting part was that we did not have a unique product. So what we offered was very similar to a number of other diagnostic laboratories in the area, but what set us apart is our quality record and the way we treated the customers. That all stemmed from the fact of how we treated our employees. We had transparent communication, we had servant leadership, we again invested in our employees, we treated them so well, and in result, that spilled over into our customers. Because again, famous saying, right? Hurt people. I think the same thing can go for that happy people, want to spread that and make other folks happy around them as well. And that was an incredible testament that I've been, so fortunate to be part of. And we were able to do it as we scaled from 200 employees to 600, 24/7 operation in a 2-year span.
Wow, that's such an insight. You're essentially saying goodwill is contagious, just like,
Absolutely.
yeah. There was a wonderful book written by a Fortune 1000 CEO, and he wrote this book, caught my eye, and I ended up reading it from cover to cover. It's called Employees First. And, we always think customers first. And he said, no, no, in order for the customers to be elevated, we have to elevate the employees first. And I hear that echoed in your comments.
Yeah, no, thank you for sharing. I would have to take a look at the book. I definitely feel right. Financials are important, operational rigor and excellence is important, but at the end of the day, if you're not investing in your team members, you don't have to worry about operations or the financials because you don't really have a company. And I think a lot of the dynamics in the world that we live in right now with AI, with, us becoming, continuously becoming more worldly versus, right, each country is more independent, is there is continued war for talent regardless of what the economy is doing. Great talent is going to be able to find lots of opportunities. What is going to set companies apart is the way, again, you treat your talent and the culture that you provide within the organization. And that is very difficult to duplicate. Everything else is fair, right? Somebody else, and there's a blueprint online with comments and things like that of what your company is doing well and where potentially there's opportunities that somebody else can go ahead and copy what you do, but they can't copy the people that you have.
Yeah, absolutely. Oksana, can you share with our audience a key decision you made that was guided by your commitment to integrity and how that all played out?
Um, sure, I would have to keep it very high level, just again, to not, because of the confidentiality of a
Absolutely.
situation. Um, but there was a situation where it was brought to my attention there that there was potential. sexual harassment that was happening within one fairly significant department within the organization by the highest leader of that function. The nuance was that that individual was very well connected with the head of HR, was at the same time very well connected to a few other individuals within the organization that normally would be the people responsible for all the calls or whistleblower hotline or the system where you're able to submit those types of claims into. And all of those individuals also reported directly into the CEO of the organization. So, because the allegation came to me, all the normal channels and partners that I would normally have to work on something like that were not available to me. And I also knew that obviously it could not go ignored. And what I found out as the claim was given or provided to me is the individual that brought it up has actually experienced that type of inappropriate behavior toward themselves for an extended period of time, but only reported it because now it happened in front of her to one of her direct reports. So that person chose to stay silent for fear of retaliation and a few other things when it came to them, but also did the right thing to protect the individual on their team. So in this specific scenario, it was very nuanced to navigate, but I chose to go directly to the CEO of the organization to make them aware of what was brought up. To then that way, with the CEO's backing, I could then go back to the normal channels that were not available to me before, because now there was accountability for looking into that situation and getting to the bottom of it.
What an interesting path you had to navigate,
Right.
for sure.
And at the end of the day, unfortunately, too, it was validated, and the number of victims was in over a dozen. So it was even larger than I could have expected. It gave an opportunity finally for the company to address something that was going on for an extended period of time.
Is there an example, again, without breaching any confidences, that where you personally were involved in with the counterparty, professionally or personally, that failed to bring full integrity to the equation and how that all
A
played out?
100%. I think a lot of the times, and I unfortunately there are too many instances to list. But that's where again I feel that sometimes folks feel that being a leader, right? They more focus on the title that comes with it, the compensation, maybe some of the perks, and miss the point that it means your job is more difficult. Is again, you do have to do the right thing. You do have an obligation to both the organization, the employees, your team, the shareholders, all the stakeholders to do what is right. And a lot of times, folks, I think when they're faced with a tough decision, sometimes get to be swayed by either the compensation or again not wanting to take that personal responsibility for doing the tough but right thing and expect somebody else to do that instead. But I think again, right, that that's not what being a leader is.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. One of the things, especially if you could help our audience, there's a group of younger folks that watch, and even the female side that we are underrepresented in many of our guests, but mostly male dominated. But lately, more women have been coming on as guests. What would you share that you've learned as professional and life lessons that you would share with the younger group who are starting out on their journey, and as pearls of wisdom that they ought to use as kind of benchmarks and mile markers for them as they look out to navigate their own professional path forward?
Yeah. Great question. I think the beautiful part is the younger generation definitely has a lot more opportunities to support themselves than even, for example, when I was starting out with social media, with fractional work, with consulting. There's so many other ways to be able to make a very wonderful income versus the 9 to 5 that probably was more prominent, right? When I was starting out, when you were starting out. So I want to start with that. The reason I'm starting with that is every person, I think, regardless of age, should go on a journey, whatever that looks like for them, to define what are their personal values. What are those things that they stand for? What are the things that they need to have in an environment that they're part of, be it work, be it professional, be it, again, even folks that we choose to spend our free time with? And what are their deal breakers and non negotiables? I think once every person has that defined, any situation that they get themselves into, be it an interview where they're considering joining an organization, be it again potentially a consulting opportunity or a project, spend the time to then develop questions to ask the other side so you can better understand if whoever's sitting across from you again aligns with those values. Are you going to be in a situation where you can better each other, where it's going to be mutually beneficial for both sides? And if the answer I think is no, then that's an opportunity to do a self reflection and potentially continue looking. But also, if you're in a situation where you need, right, the financial income, where you might not have the luxury to be as picky, then go in knowing, right, protect yourself, potentially go in, give yourself a period of time that you know you're going to be in that situation and continue looking. But I think a lot of folks forget that they should be interviewing the company, the manager, the team that they're considering joining as much, if not more, as the company and the team is interviewing them.
Yes, great advice. Really great. Obviously, you have that strong HR background and you are providing insights that many would not have known to be so obvious. So, thank you for that. Oksana, as we're kind of rounding the corner here and thinking through how folks might get in touch with you, what's the best way for them to do that?
I would actually say LinkedIn. I am fairly open actually to accepting all the invitations, very active on LinkedIn too. So that would be the best way.
Yeah, Oksana Lukash, Oksana, last name Lukash.
Correct.
Oksana, it's been a wonderful conversation with you. I really appreciate the time. I appreciate the input, and I know our audience is going to get a lot out of this. So thank you so much for coming on The
Thank
Power of
you.
Integrity. I really appreciate our audience, and everybody stay well, stay safe till next time.
Thank you.
The information presented in this program is provided for informational purposes only. The information is believed to be reliable, but no guarantee of accuracy is made or implied. Expressions of opinions are as of this date and are subject to change without notice. The information in this material is not intended as tax or legal advice. Please consult a legal or tax professional for specific information regarding your individual situation. This information does not constitute a solicitation or an offer to buy or sell any security. Investing involves risks, including possible loss of capital. Ralph Adamo is registered with the securities and are offered through Kovac Securities Inc., member FINRA, SIPC, 6451 North Federal Highway, Suite 1201, Fort Lauderdale, Florida, 33308. Telephone number 954-782-4771. Investment advisory services are offered through Kovac Advisors Inc. Integrity Wealth Management is not affiliated with Kovac Securities Inc. or Kovac Advisors Inc.